Today, we're talking about the best tools for managing stress and anxiety daily. Welcome back, everybody, to the Movement, Mind, and Meaning podcast. I'm your host, Megan Nolan. I have a very special guest, my dear friend, my incredible client with us today. Her name is Allison Chaney. I'm going to introduce you to her magic in a moment. But before we get into these best tools that you literally can do anytime, anywhere, even while you're driving, even while you're doing other things, I wanted to mention the fact that the anxiety and stress reset is kicking off again on March 17th. We're doing a community round, which means you can do the power pauses, which you're going to learn all about today, anytime, anywhere, on your own schedule, because I know it's a global movement and I know you have your own schedule, and that is perfect. But inside the community rounds, you get access to the support, the accountability, the encouragement, the motivation that comes from being inside a really supportive container and community. So we are kicking off the next community round on March 17th. So make sure to check out the link in the show notes to grab your spot and get lifetime access to all the tools, all the bonuses, and this live round and all the other live rounds for only $37. What? I know it's crazy, but because I know it's valuable and I want you to jump in on this, go ahead and check that out. Grab your spot. We kick this off on March 17th. And if you're listening to this later, reach out to me because we're going to do it again because it's a global movement of people who care so much about how they feel that they make time and space for themselves every day, because these are some of the best tools to manage stress and anxiety daily. So that's how I wanted to invite you into this moment. But let's chat with the incredible, lovely, and talented Allison. Welcome to the show. And you're muted. No, you're not.
Yep. You know,
Kidding.
I had a bird that was coming up wanting to say hello, so I thought, no, it's not inappropriate. So, hi, I'm Allison.
Hi. Well, Allison is a growth and marketing strategist and entrepreneur. And so she is going to tell us a little bit about herself. And by doing so, take us into a little moment. So she reached out to me the other day after we were at a really incredible live event here on Maui called the Entrepreneur Boot Camp, excuse me. And she did a absolutely incredible job at her presentation. She reached out to me the next day and she had some things to share with me. And so, will you take us to this moment, Allison, and let us know a little bit about
Yeah,
you, of
sure.
course?
Of course. So I have done a lot of speaking. I've been a public speaker for, gosh, almost 20 years probably, and mostly around topics of digital marketing, things like that. And I was actually I had a job for a long time where it was literally a company called Boot Camp Digital. So we did like boot camp style trainings. So I was in this like energy of this really fast paced, like get it done, just like, you know, down and dirty, get the work done kind of energy. And I noticed recently, because of course there was a pandemic and then nobody was traveling anymore. And so all of a sudden, all this traveling I was doing, I mean, I spent most of my life in a different city for about 10 years, um, you know, speaking, and this was my life. And then didn't do it. There was a pandemic. Then I moved to Maui. My lifestyle completely changed. And then I kind of getting back out there again, go and do this thing at the college. And I mean, this is a piece of cake. It's something I've done a million times. I can't even count. And easy for me, and it's fun. I love being in the energy. And then I got home that night and all of a sudden this anxiety started coming in and I was like, oh man, what's this about? This doesn't make any sense, you know? And then I was like, wait, but this also feels really familiar. And what I realized in that moment was like, oh, this is actually something that I was dealing with for 10 years. And the way I dealt with it was more work. So I would get, I mean, that the amount of things that I would do, and I noticed that pattern kind of creeping in again, but this time I had different tools. So, and that's why I reached out to you, Megan. I was like, oh my gosh, this is pretty cool. I literally just took a power pause in the middle of massive wave of anxiety and all of this, you know, the judge and all of these things telling me that I don't have any right to have these feelings. And then just took a moment with it and was able to move it and was able to basically use a tool to move through a really old pattern that I didn't even realize was so destructive in my life. And then the result of like doing this differently, it's like exponentially, like I'm on a wave right now. I'm like, "Whoa, this is cool." So that kind of sums it up.
Wow. Well, so many things in there. And thank you. And I was so grateful when you reached out and so proud of you because what you did there is can be really challenging for a lot of us to even have that level of non-judgmental self-awareness, which you spoke to there, right? Of witnessing yourself in that and noticing the judgy jerk that we all have in our head that wants to critique everything we did, which is, as you know, if you're a listener to the show, is part of our natural hardwiring. And as a human, you probably can relate to much of what Allison just said there. And so let's unpack that a little bit of how did you even catch yourself in that? Did you notice it from the feelings that you had, or could you hear the negative chatter? Because what we're looking for are some cues, right? And you hit on something else that's really big and so many things. I'm like, I want to remember all the 5 things that you said that I want to repeat back to you. But what you said there was that you found yourself in the feeling, right? You felt the feels, you feel the feels, and you took a power pause. And we're going to explain what a power pause is for those of you that don't know in a moment. But before we get there, Allison spoke to that awareness, that level of, ooh, what's happening here? So can you take us into that felt sense of what you were feeling then?
Yeah, I think it's just like that in itself is a tool. And, you and I have been working together for a few years now. And I think that's something that I can look back on that progress over years and be like, oh, wow, this is actually a tool that I've learned to do, kind of shift how I do things in a way that it's second nature. So when something like that comes up, sort of literally take a pause and I stop and I'm like, what's this? Like, what's going on here? And I just, I don't judge it. I don't, try to change it, which I think that's the biggest thing is I was always trying to change it before, like, oh, this is wrong. First of all, I judge it. This is wrong. Second of all, now I have to change it and be perfect, perfectionist. Aha. So in that moment, I was like, wait a second, here we go. Like, what's this guy doing? Showing up, and I was like, hold on a second, because it was really interesting because of how familiar it felt. And I think that was the piece that kind of took me back a little bit as well. But also it was just that it's a habit. It's what I do now. And when big stuff like that comes up, the first thing I do is just take a step back and just observe it. Because what comes up when I observe it, then I'm able to go, oh, okay, here we go. This is what's happening right now. And without any judgment or expectation, without any like, oh, I'm going to go into this and I'm going to identify something that's wrong with me and fix it. It was just sort of like, this is interesting. What's the deal with this anxiety? And, why does this happen? Or just not even why, but just like, that's interesting. There's this thing that's coming up. And I don't know, it's just sort of a curiosity. It's a curiosity about like when things come up, it's a messenger. And so being able to look at it, and I think that was another thing that you know, you and I talked about long ago. It's like everything's a gift and a gift or an opportunity. And going, okay, here's anxiety. How can this anxious feeling be a gift? And just like knowing in that moment, like the first few times I did that, I was like, yeah, right. Anxiety is a gift. Show me that again. That's funny. But now I'm like, oh wait, no, there's actually something here. There's a messenger attached to that feeling. There's something and what I discovered from it was something completely different I was expecting, but it was like, oh, okay, that's just like this is interesting. It's like watching a movie now. There's no judgment around it. It's just like an event that's going to happen. I'm like, okay, here comes anxiety. I'm going to chill with this guy for a minute, see what's going on, see what comes up. Let's see how this movie turns out. And it's just sort of that removes that fear and it gets me into that. It's a habit now. It's basically what it is. It's like
Mm.
becoming curious and aware, or aware and then curious. Like, there's something. What's that about? And being excited. Like, I think that's the other thing too, is just shifting that mindset to be excited about what that messenger has to tell me. Because I'm just kind of done with all the other stuff. I'm ready to move forward. So
Well, that's again is such a big important piece, right? Because there's so many things there too, is that that's such a great response of, oh, isn't that interesting? This is interesting. What's happening here? And having that space that you're giving yourself there and looking at it through, again, another very important lens of compassionate curiosity. Because the antidote to these challenges that we might be experiencing when we're feeling anxious or when we're getting stressed out is being compassionate with ourselves and not feeling like we need to, quote unquote, fix ourselves, right? Because so much of the self-help industry is all about fixing ourselves, improvement, up leveling, and all of that. And there's so much merit and there's so much brilliance in that when we come at these desires to learn and grow and improve from the deep knowing that we are intricately and innately whole and wonderful and beautiful and powerful as we are. And it's not a need to fix something, but it's, do we want these patterns to continue? Am I okay with this on my journey to the next level? Right. And so that's what you're speaking to there, is recognizing, which many of us can relate to, especially those of us that navigate, challenges of high functioning anxiety or sadness or whatever it is that familiarity, right? And that there can almost be that sort of like comfort in that old sweater, even though it's itchy and you don't like wearing it, but it's familiar, right? And so I love that now you are recognizing, oh, there's that itchy sweater again. I don't want to wear that right now. And just like taking it off and not like ripping it off and trying to get the hell out of here. It's that, oh, there you are again. It's that song. I think it was like Paul Simon, maybe not. That, remember that song, like "Hello, Darkness, my old friend." You know that song?
Yeah.
I don't know. Tell me if
Yeah.
you know who it is, but it's that hello anxiety. There you are again, right? Especially in these situations that are challenging you and putting you out there and like vulnerable, because this is an innate response that's like part of our survival mechanism, is looking at the things that you did really well, or maybe that next time you want to shift, or whatever it is that might be perpetrating that anxious cycle. But now what I'm hearing you say, and you've said over and over, and is so beautiful, is that you use that as a recognition of, oh, okay, here this is. Hold space for it, right? And you've said to me before, and it's so beautiful and important to remember, is that holding that energy, holding the emotion allows you to tend to your little self, and it allows you to like be held in that moment and not make it wrong, but it allows you to recognize that these feelings are valid and they deserve to be felt. And it's not like a mosquito that we're just shooing away. So we can go back to that too. But when you felt those feelings and you were like, okay, here it is again. And instinctively, because this is your pattern, you took a power pause. So can you explain to people how you would explain a power pause? Like, what does that mean to you to take a power pause?
Yeah, so there's kind of like two phases of it. One is the physical, just like taking a moment and physically focusing on something. It's any sensation, any sort of thing. And then sort of like at that same time, because when you physically like focus on one thing, all of a sudden the 5,000 things that I was focusing on that was distracting me from the feeling, all of a sudden the feeling comes up. And I'm like, okay, here it is. But it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like you take this physical moment, you focus on something, and then you sort of allow that feeling, and then the feeling kind of, it's like holding it and letting it go at the same time. So for me, it's breath always helps a lot. I've always had a lot of connection to that, for years. But the more intentional, excuse me, the piece of it where you're actually connecting with that and allowing yourself to only connect with the sensation of the breath. Like, okay, how does it feel going through my nose? How does it, like, what is it? Is it warm? Is it cool? Whatever. Or, um, something tactile. And sometimes it's just something as simple as this. Or I paddle a lot. And so I actually do this a lot on the canoe where I'll focus on the sound of the water. I'll focus on the
Mhm.
sound of the water hitting the side of the canoe, and I'll only hear the sound of my paddle hitting the water. That in itself becomes so powerful because then the other stuff is like, oh, here it is. And then it melts away. It's kind of
Mhm.
magic. Intentional magic, I guess.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I got goosebumps for sure.
Um,
And that's so beautiful. And that's it, is really, it's such a powerful power pause. It's so powerful to literally be able to take control of your mind in that moment, because in that moment, your mind is doing what it's wired to do, and it's spinning into the stress and the anxious response. And so what we're doing here intentionally with the power pause is giving the mind something else to do, right? We're giving it something to do. And so I think that just like lines us up perfectly. Let's try this together. Is that what we're going to do? If it's safe for you, if you're driving, obviously only do this with one hand. But if you're not driving, I'm going to have you count on your fingers. Okay. So I'm using both hands. You can't see me unless you're on YouTube. but I'm going to use my thumb. I'm going to go from my pointer to my middle, my et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So we're going to let our arms relax down by our sides, and we're going to inhale through our nose for a count of 4. Count them on your fingers. Ready? Inhale, pause, and exhale for 4. In your head, say the words 4, 3, 2, 1. Count on your fingers. Inhale, exhale. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Slower. One more. And then just be with the breath for a moment. Notice how your body feels now. I don't know about you, but I feel relaxed. I feel grounded. How do you feel? Do you notice a shift? Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's literally that powerful and that quick.
Right.
Hello, ancient
Yeah.
technology. I love that you have the Buddha behind you. He's like, yes, very good.
Good job.
Good job. Bravo. So here's the thing, is that for many of us busy-brained people that experience, a variety of life challenges, it can be really difficult to just sit still and just watch the breath, especially if you are experiencing stress and anxiety. So classically, you might find that doing multiple things at one time is what it takes to focus and quiet your mind. I know that's the case for me. So you may find that, using your fingers as you layer it with the breath, as you say the words to yourself in your head, is what it takes to be really focused in doing that, and not let your mind say, well, that's not meditating if you're not sitting there just quietly humming away. No, it's actually whatever you want to use, you can use to do a power pause. And you may find that sometimes if you are experiencing a more charged state, in that it already feels like anxiety is predominant in your body or stress is predominant in your body, it may not be the one that you use in that moment. That's when maybe taking a shaky break, or like doing some dancing or doing some squats or something that allows you to express the stress, is a more aligned outlet for that energy in that moment. Because based on how you start the power pause, you may need something that's a little more active, right? Or if you're feeling a little bit more just kind of super grounded or sad even, you may find you need something else, right? And so they're really adaptable. So you can use any tool to do a power pause. So I love that you did that after the event, and you mentioned that in the past few weeks, because that event was a few weeks ago as we're recording, that you've been using this as well. So can you give us some more examples of, you said in the canoe, and that's such a beautiful image, because in case you folks didn't know, Allison also lives here on Maui, so she's in the ocean, so it's a wild canoe ride for her. And so how would you say that after you take these power pauses, what shifts for you? Like, what do you notice about your being or your energy or your inner state?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's so interesting is that, like, when we get caught in those anxiety spirals, it's like we're thinking. Like, I know for me, like, I overthink. And so I've literally got like 50 thought patterns running scenarios in my head at the same time. And it's a lot going on up there. And doing that allows me to just sort of set it all down, because now I'm focusing on something else. And I'm still doing a job. And I like how you explained like the layering thing. I think that's why the canoe is so helpful for me, because I'm like intentional about all the emotion, or all the sensations I'm having. But I'm also like, I still have to focus. I still have to paddle. I still have to breathe. There's things that I'm doing. And so all of that gets me out of that like overthinking spiral. And then what I realize when I look back at it, and then I'm like, oh, wait, but all those thought patterns weren't actually helping. Because you get caught in those spirals and you're like, I have to keep thinking about this scenario, because if I stop thinking about it, something bad's going to happen. It's like some weird OCD thing. But when you actually do stop thinking about it, you're like, oh, thank God. I didn't need to be going down that spiral. I didn't need to be playing that scenario in my head. Because, and going back to the speaking thing, I went home and I was like playing these scenarios in my head of all these conversations I had of like, oh, that went wrong, or maybe I said this the wrong way, or maybe I offended that person. None of these things are true. None of that stuff actually happened. Like literally people were coming up saying, this was the best presentation of the entire day. Why the heck would I go home and think that I sucked? But I did. And then, what good are those thought patterns? It didn't serve me at all. And but of course I was stuck in the pattern. And I was like, okay, wait, I got a tool for this. For that particular night, I just kind of breathed and did some of the, just focus. And I was like, oh, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God I put that down. Like it was like, oh, thank God, that's done. It was just like I didn't need to do that. I'm so glad I'm done. It just interrupted that thought pattern. It helped me interrupt the stuff. It starts to kick around in circles. And I don't know, that's just, I mean, I love how you talk about the high functioning because that's how I've always felt that's who I am. As I have, I can't even count the number of businesses I'm running right now. I lost count. Like, what the heck is going on? But that's me. That's how I operate. I'd like to do a lot of things. I'm a very good doer, but it's also not healthy to do that. And so a lot of times I need to just have those tools now and stop and say, okay, I don't have to do anything and just sit here and breathe for a second and let that go. And then realize I didn't need it anyway and set it down and then focus on usually then something else comes up that's more valuable. And that event has now launched me into a whole other direction of my career. I mean, I basically the company I was working for today, we decided to pivot, like hardcore pivot everything that we're offering. And it's all because of me, because I spoke up and I said, I mean, of course they're brilliant too, and they brought their own ideas. This wasn't just me, it wasn't just my idea. We were all brainstorming, but because I was willing to speak up and say, I had this experience, it went really well. Instead of the story of the anxiety and all the other stuff, I might have messed it up. It might have sucked. People may hate me, whatever. And I was like, actually, this went really well and I really love it. And if we're going to pivot, I want to do this. I want to help people. I want to, I like the training, I like the speaking, and it brought us into a possibility where we could pivot. So um, I never would have got there if I would have stayed in the spiral of telling myself that I sucked or that conversation went sideways or that I should have said that thing or that was a stupid joke. My hair didn't look good. I was wearing the wrong outfit, like all the stupid stories that I was spinning out on. I just put those down and it opened up. It was like, blink, here's your doorway. There's your possibility. There's your new venture. Like my whole life shifted about 3 hours ago. I'm like, oh, this is happening. So
Wow. See? And that's the
surprise.
interesting thing. Yeah, surprise. Look what's waiting for us on the other side of fear.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's exciting. I can't wait to hear how that unfolds. And we will definitely have
Yeah.
links for people to stay connected with you at the end. But yeah, again, this is something for us to all learn from, right? Because, like you said, if you had stayed in that self-doubt spiral of the fear and the questioning yourself and the guilting yourself, and, all the things that can happen when we either make mistakes in our mind or actually make mistakes, which you didn't, I was there. So it's so funny, right? It's so funny the trips that our brain go on and these hardwired patterns that are, these learned patterns that we've had for so long. And it's really up to us as we evolve as beings, as we learn and grow as these beautiful, highly sensitive, empathetic, ambitious women that are on big missions, right? You have this beautiful mission in your heart. All of the people that listen and watch this show do as well. And so it's this interesting thing of knowing that you have these gifts and you have these skills and you have this incredible, at times insatiable, just drive to just keep going and do, that the being and doing the doing is as if not more important to the quality and the caliber of what you're actually doing, right? And if we're going out there and we're doing all of these big incredible things and helping people grow their business like you do, and all of the tools that you have to offer, if on the inside we're just like, you screwed that up, well, you fucked that up real bad, and it's not, we're not even really enjoying and truly thriving because we're basically held captive by these old patterns that push us. So it's this interesting dance, and maybe you can speak to that of this recognition of this desire for more and to constantly be pushing and going after it, but where you do that from and how important it is for you to do it from a place of your vision and your intentionality and the impact that you want to make in the world, which of course includes your health and your happiness. But can you speak to that a little bit about how that plays out for you?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I've also been going through this thing of getting clear on that in my life and realizing like, oh, here's the non-negotiables, and here's the things that I want, and not the things that I want based on what everybody else wants for me, or the validation, all the things. It's like, what do I actually want? I want freedom, I want flexibility, I want recognition, or whatever, just going through those things. And I want to help people. I want to, I've got so much experience, and also like connecting with what felt good about, instead of dwelling on what gave me anxiety about the experience, going back and connecting to what felt good about the experience, because I was high in the moment. It felt so high. And like, what made me high, what brought that to me. And when I really started digging into it, I mean, there's some things like, everybody loves to be in the, well, I don't know if everybody, but I think we all have a little bit of us that like the spotlight a little bit. When the spotlight feels good, you want everyone to look at you and be, oh, you want to be adored. I think everybody wants to be adored, and that was, part of it. But also a big part of it was, it felt so good at the end to connect with people who came up, and I could feel their energy, that little bit, because I used to be that person on the other end of that, of like being so blown away by somebody who just gave me some kind of information that changed my life or inspired me, and then feeling nervous to walk up and tell them thank you, but feeling like I have to go tell them thank you because they impacted my life. And like, to have people where I felt that energy when they came up to me, and that little nervous energy, like, who am I? I'm not special. I'm just whatever. And then all these people are making me feel special. And not just because it feels special, but because it's like, I know I made a difference. I know it counts. I know it mattered. And that's the part that's starting to really motivate me. And honestly, that's what shifted this company I work with, because yesterday we were having a conversation. I said, can we just talk about our feelings? Because I don't like this. I don't like how I feel. And he was like, one of my business partners, he was like, I don't like how I feel either. It sucks. Like, I don't like how this client just made us feel. I don't feel seen. I don't feel appreciated. I said, you know what? I'm too old for this. I do not want to be in a place anymore where I don't feel acknowledged, because I know I'm amazing. I know I have something to offer. And if I'm in a space where somebody doesn't see it, I mean, of course, there's always place for growth, right? But if I'm in a place at this point in my life where I'm giving it my all and they don't see it, maybe it's time to go somewhere else. And and he was like, yeah, I need to do that. We're barking up the wrong trees. We're fishing in the wrong pond. We've got the wrong bait. Like, what's happening here? This isn't. So then once I think the whole team shifted into this space of like, and it really, I believe that, was a big part of that shift, because it was like, what's my intention? What do I really want to do? What really matters to me? What are my core values? Instead of, how am I going to make money? How am I going to make the rent? How am I going to do? How am I going to make everybody proud of me? How am I going to make my dad proud of me? All that shit. And then all of a sudden it was like the light bulb, and that's the inspiration came, and we were like, oh, let's pivot, let's do this. And we're like, of course, why are we not doing this? And this is going to be so easy to do. Like, of course, I have a huge network that wants what I have to give, and that I can actually help make an impact. And it was really cool because, I even looked at my coworker and I was like, I know their core values as well. I was like, one of the things I love about this team is our core values. And I said, I love that we're in a space where we're actually going to be helping people, that we can make an impact. We can make an impact in their business. We can make an impact in their life, and they're going to appreciate it, and they're going to love it, and we're going to empower them. So we're going to teach them to do it. instead of charging tons of money to do it for them. We don't have to. We can, I mean, it's just beautiful. We could build something that it's a win-win for everyone. And but that tangible thing came from that inspiration of like, I just want to help make it easier for people so they don't have to go through all the stuff that I did that made it so hard on myself, because it doesn't have to be that hard. So just, that's kind of my inspiration.
Well, I love that. And again, I want to celebrate you because what you're doing there is really making that intentional decision for what matters to you and moving from
Mm.
that aligned place of is this aligned with your values and the impact that you want to make? And so again, speaking to the beautiful benefit of this work, of taking these power pauses, of learning about your incredible self. Yay, kudos to you. And really, again, this is it. This is why we're here, is for us to learn about ourselves and treat ourselves with this non-judgmental self-awareness and this curious compassion, and growing and learning and evolving and doing all the big and magical things that you're here to do. But that really comes from that place of intentionality, of catching ourselves in these old patterns that really, served us for survival purposes, but not necessarily going to serve us going forward. And so again, that's really the beautiful message that I wanted to really share, that these are the best tools for managing stress and anxiety because they're practical, they're portable, they're super effective, they're really efficient, and you can see the beautiful results that they had in the stories that Allison has been sharing, both in the moment, right? Because that's so important, is really shifting our inner state and coming back to that centered place when you're really owning your power and in your power. And that's what power pauses do for you. So exciting to have you on the show and to share these little messages and big messages with us. And we're excited to hear what unfolds for you and your work and your business going forward. And so as we wrap up, I want to give you a chance to share a way to get a hold of people, or excuse me, the other way around, for people to get a hold of you. And we will, of course, include that in the show notes. But is there anything that you have to kind of put a bow on it as far as power pauses, anything you'd like to say about whether or not people should join us for the anxiety and stress reset, anything like that?
Yeah, that actually would be a great idea. I think one of the things you just said was you're talking about efficiency and if like just tools that are accessible. And that there's something for everybody, right? There's lots of flavors of tools out there in the world. But if I think what makes this special is because it's for people like me who, we are high functioning, we have a lot of things going on. I do not have time to take an entire day. I don't. I just don't. It's not realistic right now. And and I understand the sustainability of that and all the things, but also I know that I can get through this short stint of what I have ahead of me to do some building because I have some tools to get me through it, and it helps me to navigate. So I think, yeah, I mean it's a realistic set of tools that, if you're in that space where you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have time for this, this is it. Because and your anxiety and stress reset, I'm sure will teach all of those things that I know so well now. 'Cause it's how we get through. Sometimes we have a job to do. At the end of the day, I have rent to pay. I can't go sit in a tree for a month and breathe about it. I got shit to do. So that's my
Right, I
bow.
know. Everyone's always like, but Maui, you have to work on Maui. Yeah, all the more reason for
Every
us to
freaking day. Every
work.
freaking day. I work when
Expensive.
I'm asleep.
I know.
So
Working on those passive revenue streams. Yeah.
so fun. Totally worth it though. Totally
Totally
worth it.
worth it. Yeah, 1000%. We love you, Maui. We love you. Well, thank you so much. Okay, and then so to finish up, let us know how we can, what's your like social media platform of choice, or do you have a link where people can
Mm.
connect with you
Yeah,
verbally,
so social media right now, I'm trying to do a little detox. So let's not
ironically?
mess with that. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, we all need to just take a break sometimes. But I would say best way to get a hold of me, go to wonderlandmaui.com. You can there are links to my things there. You can, I would say LinkedIn is probably the best. Just look up Allison Chaney on LinkedIn, you'll find me there. But if you want to schedule a short call with me and just have a chat, you can schedule. I have a calendar right there on my site. So, anybody who thinks that maybe they want to learn a little bit more about what I'm into, give me a call.
Perfect. Thank you. And we will definitely link that up in the show notes. So yes, Allison was correct. You will learn all these magical tools inside the anxiety and stress reset. Learn how to be the most powerful and grounded person in any room by anchoring yourself back in that place of power within yourself, so that no matter what's happening externally and internally, you have these tools, efficient, effective, realistic, that you can use anytime, anywhere to cultivate calm on command, literally, as quick as we did it there, and if not quicker. So we are kicking off the live round. The next one, again, you can do the sessions, you can take the power pauses whenever it works on your schedule, because I know global time zones, all good, but it's all about the community and the support and the encouragement. So make sure to grab your spot from the link in the show notes. And thank you again, Allison. It's been really wonderful and fun to have
Of
you on the show
course.
today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everybody. Well, that's all for us today. Thank you for doing your incredible things in the world. And just know that all of these aspects of you, all of these parts, all of these pieces, all of these patterns, they're welcome. And if you choose to allow them to continue, you can. But if you want to actually shift them, you can, because you are that powerful. And power pauses help you to do that. So we'll see you on the next episode, or hear you. No, you'll hear us. You know what I mean. All right. Take care, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye.